The dim glow of the city lights flickered through the apartment window as I sat at my desk, absent-mindedly flipping through the pages of a book I had no interest in reading. My mind was elsewhere, lost in the thoughts of the woman I loved, Sarah. She was everything I had ever dreamed of in a partner. Beautiful, intelligent, charming, at least, that was what I believed. We had been together for nearly 2 years, and in that time, she had become the center of my world. I still remembered the day we met as if it had happened yesterday. It was in a coffee shop, a cliché encounter straight out of a romance movie. She had accidentally spilled her caramel latte on my shirt, gasped in horror, and immediately offered to pay for my dry cleaning. I had laughed it off, captivated by the sparkle in her eyes and the way she nervously tucked her hair behind her ear. From that moment, we were inseparable. Sarah was the kind of woman who could make any man feel like he was the luckiest person alive. She had a way of making me believe I was special, that I was different from all the other men she had dated before. She showered me with affection, called me her forever, and often spoke of the future we would build together. But love has a way of blinding a man. I ignored the small warning signs, the little inconsistencies in her words and actions. She had a habit of disappearing for hours without explanation, yet when I asked, she would laugh and say, "You worry too much, babe." She always seemed to have an excuse for everything. And whenever we had an argument, no matter how small, I was always the one apologizing, even when I knew deep down that I had done nothing wrong. Despite all of this, I was convinced she was the one. That was why, on that fateful Monday evening, I found myself sitting in front of my laptop, searching for the perfect engagement ring. I had spent months saving up for this moment. I wanted everything to be perfect, the proposal, the ring, the look of surprise on her face when I got down on one knee. But fate had other plans for me. Just as I was about to finalize my purchase, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a voice message from my friend, Daniel. "Hey man, I need to talk to you. It's about Sarah. Call me when you can." My brows furrowed as I stared at the message. Something about his tone didn't sit right with me. Daniel had always been cautious when it came to my relationship with Sarah. He never openly spoke against her, but I could sense his hesitation whenever her name came up in conversation. Curious, I dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. "Hey, bro. Are you alone?" I glanced around my empty apartment. "Yeah. What's going on?" There was a brief silence before he sighed. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I just overheard something. Sarah and her friends were at the lounge tonight. They didn't see me, but I was sitting a few tables away." A strange unease settled in my chest. "What did she say?" Daniel hesitated. "She was laughing with her friends, talking about how she's been stringing you along." And then, he stopped for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. "She said, I will brutally dump him after he proposes." My breath caught in my throat. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. "What?" My voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, man," Daniel said softly. "I thought you should know." A cold chill ran down my spine as the weight of his words settled in. My fingers tightened around the phone as a mixture of anger, betrayal, and disbelief flooded my chest. Sarah. The woman I had planned to spend my life with. The woman I had loved wholeheartedly. She had never truly loved me. She had been playing a game all along. And I was the fool who almost fell for it. But not anymore. I swallowed hard, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. I could have stormed over to her apartment right then and confronted her. I could have called her out on her lies. But I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath, forced my emotions into check, and allowed a slow, knowing smirk to curl at the corners of my lips. Sarah wanted to play games. I would play along. But in the end, it wouldn't be me who would be left heartbroken. It would be her. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. The betrayal still stung like a fresh wound, but instead of drowning in anger, I felt an eerie calm settle over me. I had a plan now. Sarah had no idea that I knew the truth. And that was my greatest weapon. I went about my day as usual, pretending nothing had changed. I sent Sarah a sweet morning text, the same way I had done every day for the past 2 years. Good morning, my love. I hope you slept well. Can't wait to see you later. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Sarah, babe. You're so sweet. I love you. I nearly scoffed at the screen. The words that once made my heart skip now felt hollow. Fake. A well-rehearsed script she had probably used on other men before me. Still, I played my part perfectly. I called her during lunch, asked about her day, and even told her I had a surprise planned for her that weekend. I could practically hear the excitement in her voice. A surprise? Oh my God, babe. You're spoiling me too much. I forced a chuckle. Only the best for you. She had no idea I was the one setting the trap now. That evening, I met up with Daniel at our usual spot, a quiet rooftop bar with a view of the city skyline. He still looked uneasy, as if he regretted telling me the truth. You okay, man? He asked, sipping his beer. I smirked. Never been better. Daniel frowned. Seriously? I thought you'd be losing your mind right now. Oh, I was, I admitted. But then I realized something. If I had confronted Sarah right away, she would have just lied her way out of it. Maybe even turned it around on me. But if I let her believe she's still in control, I leaned back, taking a slow sip of my drink. Then I get to control how this ends. Daniel stared at me for a moment, then let out a low whistle. Damn. Remind me never to mess with you. I chuckled, but deep down, I knew this wasn't a game for me. This was about justice. About making her feel the same humiliation she had planned for me. By the way, Daniel added, lowering his voice, I asked around about Sarah. Turns out, she has a history of this. I narrowed my eyes. What do you mean? He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of Sarah with another guy. This was 2 years ago. His name is Mark. She dated him before you. Guess what happened? I didn't have to guess. She dumped him after he proposed. Daniel nodded grimly. Not just dumped. Humiliated. In public. Told him she never loved him and was just using him for fun. The guy disappeared after that. No one knows where he is now. My jaw tightened. This wasn't just about me anymore. Sarah made a habit of destroying people for her own entertainment. And I refused to be her next victim. I clenched my fist under the table. This time, she wouldn't be the one walking away unscathed. This time, she would be the one begging. The following days were a test of my patience. Pretending to be the doting boyfriend while knowing the truth about Sarah was harder than I expected. Every time she smiled at me, every time she kissed me, I had to resist the urge to expose her. But I knew I had to wait. If I wanted to truly turn the tables on her, I had to play the long game. Sarah, on the other hand, was completely unaware. She continued acting like the perfect girlfriend, texting me sweet messages and making plans for the future, plans she had no intention of keeping. It was almost laughable how confident she was in her deception. By Friday, I was ready to put my plan in motion. That evening, I invited Sarah over to my apartment for dinner. I had gone all out, candles, soft music, her favorite wine. I wanted her to believe that everything was still perfect, that I was still the clueless boyfriend she thought she was playing. The moment she walked in, she gasped. Oh my God, babe. This is so romantic. I smiled warmly. Only the best for you. She wrapped her arms around my neck, pressing a kiss to my cheek. You're seriously the sweetest. I don't deserve you. I almost laughed at the irony of her words. Instead, I pulled out a chair for her. Come on, let's eat. Throughout dinner, I watched her carefully, studying her every expression. She had no idea that this was the beginning of her downfall. As we ate, I casually brought up the topic I knew she was waiting for. So, I said, swirling my wine glass. I've been thinking a lot about our future lately. Her eyes lit up. Really? I nodded. Yeah. I mean, we've been together for almost 2 years now. I feel like it's time we take the next step. Sarah practically beamed. Are you serious? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small black velvet box. She gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Oh my God, are you? I smirked and placed the box on the table. Open it. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the box. The anticipation in her eyes was unmistakable. She thought she had won. But the moment she flipped the lid open, her expression froze. Inside the box was no engagement ring. Instead, there was a tiny folded note. Frowning, she picked it up and unfolded it. Her eyes scanned the words, and almost instantly, the color drained from her face. I know everything. Enjoy the show. She looked up at me, confusion and panic flashing in her eyes. What is this? I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. It's exactly what it looks like, Sarah. I know. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She was scrambling, trying to understand how things had suddenly turned against her. I reached for my phone and tapped on the screen. A second later, an audio recording began playing. I will brutally dump him after he proposes. Sarah's own voice echoed through the room. She flinched as if she had been slapped. Wait, I cut her off with a cold smile. It's funny, isn't it? How you thought you had everything under control. How you laughed at the idea of humiliating me. But look at you now. Her eyes welled up with tears. I didn't mean it. It was just a joke. I tilted my head. A joke? So, was Mark a joke too? Her breath hitched. I could see the panic in her face now. She knew I had uncovered everything. I gave you everything, Sarah, I continued, my voice calm but firm. I trusted you. I loved you. And this is what I get in return. She reached across the table, desperate. Please, I can explain. I pulled my hand away before she could touch me. You don't need to. We're done. She shook her head frantically. No, please. I love you. I swear, I stood up, grabbing my phone. You should go. Sarah's breathing became erratic. Babe, please, just let me. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. For the first time, Sarah looked truly afraid. She wasn't the one in control anymore. The tables had turned, and she knew it. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she slowly stood up. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't say anything. I just watched as she walked past me, her once confident stride now shaky and uncertain. The moment she stepped outside, I closed the door behind her. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. But I wasn't done yet. Sarah thought this was the worst of it. She had no idea what was coming next. The silence in my apartment was almost deafening after Sarah left. I stood by the door for a long moment, listening to her hurried footsteps fade away into the night. My heart was still pounding, not out of regret, but out of satisfaction. For the first time since I overheard her betrayal, I felt truly in control. I walked back to the dinner table, staring at the untouched wine and the empty engagement ring box that had served its purpose. Sarah had thought she was the one setting the stage for my humiliation. Instead, she was the one who walked away broken. But I wasn't done yet. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Daniel. She knows now. But this is just the beginning. A few minutes later, he replied. Daniel, damn. What happened? She read the note. Heard the recording. She begged, cried, but I sent her out. Daniel, dude. She's not gonna let this go easily. I smirked at my screen. I'm counting on that. The desperate calls. It didn't take long before Sarah started calling. I ignored the first call. Then the second. By the time she called for the 5th time in a row, I finally answered, just to hear her desperation. The moment I picked up, her voice came through in frantic sobs. Babe, please, just let me explain. I swear, I wasn't serious. I leaned back on my couch, completely calm. Sarah, we're done. No. No, we're not. I love you, I swear. It was just a stupid joke. I cut her off. A joke? Just like what you did to Mark. She went completely silent. I let that hang in the air before continuing. Or were you planning to move on to your next target after me? And no. It wasn't like that. I swear, you're different. I scoffed. Yeah, I am different. Because I'm not going to let you get away with this. Her breathing grew heavier. What do you mean? You'll find out soon enough, I said coldly before hanging up. Sarah immediately tried to call back, but I blocked her number. I wasn't interested in hearing any more lies. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. The weight of Sarah's deception was gone, replaced by the anticipation of what was to come next. Daniel had already texted me. Daniel, bro, check Instagram. She's already posting sad quotes. I chuckled, opening the app. Sure enough, Sarah had updated her story with a black and white picture of rain and a caption that read, "You never realize how much you love someone until they're gone." I shook my head. Classic manipulation. I wasn't going to fall for it. But I knew someone who would. Sarah thrived on attention. She needed people to see her as the victim. But what would happen if the truth came out first? I smiled as I started typing. It's time to let everyone know who she really is. After I exposed her, she tried everything, calling, texting, even showing up at my apartment. I never answered. She cried at my doorstep, screaming apologies, but I didn't let her in. I had one final move to make. Exposing the truth. By noon, my carefully planned message was ready. I had compiled screenshots of our conversations, the voice recording of her laughing about her plan, and even messages from Mark, the guy she had done the same thing to before me. I sent everything to a private group chat of mutual friends, ensuring they saw the truth before she could spin her sob story. Then, I posted it online. The backlash was immediate. People who once adored her turned on her. The comments under her Instagram posts were brutal. "Wow, I can't believe you were this fake all along. You played him and got played back. Karma is beautiful. Disgusting. I feel bad for the other guys you did this to." Her social media presence, once thriving, crumbled in hours. Her last attempt. By evening, I was relaxing on my couch when my intercom buzzed. I already knew who it was. Sarah. Her voice came through the speaker, shaky and desperate. "Please, just let me talk to you. I swear, I didn't mean any of it. I love you." I sighed, pressing the button to respond. "Sarah, you loved the idea of controlling me. You never loved me." She sobbed harder. No, please. I made a mistake. I was stupid. Just give me a chance to prove it to you." I let silence hang between us before answering. "You had your chance. And you wasted it. I pressed the button to end the call. She screamed. She banged on the door. But I was done. Moving on. The next day, Sarah deleted all her social media accounts. She disappeared from our friend group, too embarrassed to face anyone. As for me, I felt free. Daniel and I grabbed drinks that evening, celebrating the perfect revenge. You really turned the tables on her, man, he laughed, raising his beer. I clinked my glass against his. She thought she could play me. She learned the hard way that I don't lose. And with that, I closed the chapter on Sarah for good.